Hello and welcome to the class, Photography and Social Media. That this week I really want you to look over the syllabus. If you have any questions or concerns, then touch base with me. Open communications is really important to me, so if you have an issue or problem that affects your success in this class, let me know at the start of those issues, and that way we can hopefully address them really quickly and it won't affect your academic success. Other things to note on the syllabus are the dates and deadlines for the assignments. They're pretty consistent, but especially your final, I would make a particular note of when that is due, as there is no extension for the final projects. Term's over, I need time to grade it. Whenever you're emailing me, just in general, include your full name, include what class you're registered in, as I do teach a few courses. And if it is work that you're submitting to me, please make note of what module that work is for. That way it's not a guessing game for me, because maybe I'll guess incorrectly, and that could affect your grade. So please include those things in the email. If you ever have an issue or problem uploading your work, you can always email me the work. If this is before the deadline, you'll get full points for that. So just be aware of those things. That way you don't find yourself kind of trapped in any way, shape, or form. And that way you're kind of safeguarded in this course. Other than that, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. The syllabus is pretty straightforward. If you do have any questions, don't be shy at reaching out to me. I do try to be pretty good at getting back to you when you send me an email or a message, and I try to get back to you within 12 to 24 hours. I'll respond to you. If you do submit work to me and you don't get a reply message from me, so if you do email me a work or a message and within 24 hours you don't get a reply from me, assume I didn't receive the message and either resend it or try to contact me. But I'm pretty good, and I will send you a respond email so that you know that I have received it and that the issue, problem, or work has been seen and addressed. Okay, so let's move on from here. Today we're just going to go over some basics and try to become a little bit more familiar with the image taking device that you will be using for the majority of this class. So I really just want you to take this week to try to examine what tools you have accessible to you and how they really function and work. So for some of you, you're going to be using just a simple point-and-shoot camera, and for others, you might have something a little bit fancier. For this class, it doesn't really matter whether you have the most elaborate equipment or if you just have something as simple as your phone. As long as it can take an image and as long as you're able to get it off that device, we're going to be pretty much good. Now my hope is that we can go through some basic tips to strengthen the quality of your images. Some of them are going to be so simple, and others might become a little bit more complicated. I'll go into a little bit more technical information in case you do want to advance, but for the majority of the class, what I'll be demanding from you is really just to improve your image taking skills. Now one is, let's look at your body stance. What you really want to do is open your body stance, open your legs, so you're widening your stance, and this is going to stabilize you a little bit better, and it kind of creates, your body becomes this human tripod. Also tucking your arms in and holding the camera really nice and steady. This is going to help you get sharper images. Also look around you. See if you have things to help stabilize you. Sometimes that'll be a wall, or maybe a tripod or a chair or a table. And all these items can be utilized to prop yourself up against and to stabilize yourself. Another thing you could do is just to sit. Sit down, use your purse or backpack,
really, when you're starting to take your images, start to think about your body language and how that's affecting the quality of your image. Another simple thing is that you can shoot horizontally and vertically. This might seem quite simple, but oftentimes students, stand at regular height. They hold their cameras horizontally, and that's the only vantage point that we get to see the world. You can really flip your camera several different ways, and this is going to open up a lot of different compositional possibilities. So remember that you can move around. You have this thing called knees. You've been blessed with this thing called, legs. So you can bend and stand and get higher and get lower, get to the right of something and get to the left of something. When you're photographing a subject that you find interesting, it's a really good thing to do is to photograph it a lot from different angles, from different distances. This is going to help you to get the most interesting image possible. What you really want to do is exhaust all of your initial kind of ideas of how to photograph this item, and then that's really when the more interesting things start to emerge. Once you've exhausted all the most obvious approaches, then you start to become more innovative, and that's when really interesting images start to be developed. Think about your lighting situation. Sometimes by just opening a door or a window, adding an extra lamp to a room, that can completely change the quality of your photograph. Now, another thing to consider is the type of light that you're using. Now, we'll have a discussion about white balance later in the semester, but for right now, I just want you to notice that different light sources have different coloration. So if we look at the image below of the young lady kind of laying down at the spa with all the candles are kind of emitting this really beautiful light upon her face, but it has this very strong orange cast to it. Now, this is because different light sources have different colors. So your computer light's going to cast probably a bluer tone. Fluorescent lights are usually about a greener tone. And so depending on where you are and what the light source is, you're going to see variations in the coloration. And that's something that you need to consider. Being able to view the images on a computer where you can really enlarge them, that's going to be the best place to look at your work. Double check all of your equipment. Make sure your battery is charged. It's the most unfortunate thing when you see this beautiful photographic opportunity and, your battery dies. So before you shoot, you should make sure that your battery is fully charged. You should make sure you kind of know how to operate your cameras. And another good thing is to make sure you know how to get the images off your camera. It's not going to do anybody any good if you have these beautiful images and they're stuck on your camera and you have no idea how to download them off and upload them to our class.
This program contains experiments which are performed by professionals. These tests are dangerous and may involve the use of hazardous materials. They should not be performed or imitated under any circumstances. It's all about light. The digital camera. It's revolutionized photography by transforming light into electricity. Everything is there to draw in light, from the camera's buttons, controls, and dials down to the lenses. What the digital camera does with light is what makes it so revolutionary. It turns light into electrical charges that become the image captured on the screen. Light particles, or photons, leave the source, bounce off a subject, and enter the camera through a series of lenses. The photons then follow a designated path on their way from photon to photo. A series of lenses allows the photographer to capture the clearest image possible. This lens diaphragm is what controls the amount of light that the photographer allows in through the camera's opening or aperture. After crossing the diaphragm, the lenses, and entering the aperture, the light bounces off a mirror and heads for the viewfinder. Before it gets there, the light is flipped over as it passes through a prism. That's so the image seen in the viewfinder is right side up. If the photographer likes the image, time to press the shutter button. The mirror lifts and the light rushes in. For a fraction of a second, the light is not heading in the direction of the viewfinder, but for the very heart of the digital camera, the image sensor. The duration of this fraction of a second depends on the shutter. That opens just long enough to expose the sensor to light. Now, to the real heart of this digital revolution. The element that captures the image sensor. A tightly structured grid made up of extremely tiny light sensors. When the photons hit the light sensor, they are absorbed by the semiconductor material it's made of. For each photon absorbed, the light sensor emits an electric particle called an electron. The photon's energy transfers to the electron. That's the electrical charge. The brighter the image, the stronger the electrical charge is. So each electrical charge has a different intensity. A circuit board then converts the different intensities into computer language. They represent millions of tiny colored dots that make up a photo. The pixels. The more pixels in a picture, the better the resolution.
So where maybe the whole entire process doesn't apply to your camera, the basics do. And where we ended there was talking about the pixels. So if we think about the pixels, they're almost like a mosaic. So each tile makes up a very small section of your image. And when you zoom out, then you get the whole entire picture. So if we look at Bambi sitting in the field, we really don't see those individual little tiles. But if we zoom in far enough, then that's what we're going to see. And most digital images are kind of created on this pixel-based platform. So the more pixels you have, the smaller they are, the more compact they are, the higher the quality of the image. And this is directly connected to the resolution. Now, for our purposes, you're just going to be uploading images to the online classroom, and we're not printing or projecting those images incredibly large. So actually, the resolution doesn't have to be that high. The picture quality doesn't have to be the highest for our purposes. Now, another thing we'll discuss is the type of lens that you're using and how this can dramatically shift the way you look at the world. Different lenses will create different optical views of the things around you. Now, if you think about pictures that your friends and family have taken of you in the past, you probably can remember at least one or two where you thought that the image looked nothing like you. You looked heavier, your face was distorted, it just really, you don't even know who that person was. And this is actually directly connected to the type of lens that you're using. It's not that you've gained weight or lost it. It's that the optics of the lens from camera to camera or from lens to lens will vary. So here we see the different viewpoints that you're going to see from a telephoto lens all the way to the wide-angle lens. It's really important to look at your LCD screen or look through your camera because that's going to be a truer indication of how the camera sees the world and where photography visually mimics pretty closely the way our eyes see the world. The optics are slightly different. So if you try to just take a picture very, very quickly without even looking through the viewfinder, the lens, or the LCD screen, you're going to end up chopping someone's head off, someone's leg off, or including something in the composition you never intended to. Now, a normal lens is going to give you probably a vantage point a little bit like this. You'll have a good distance. You'll be able to get a nice amount of variety to your shots. And if we look at the difference between a telephoto and a wide-angle lens, we can see the dramatic difference. Now, this is the same child in both images. And in telephoto lens, we are physically a lot further away from our subject. We can see that the background has less detail and information in it. And we can see the incredible difference between the one on the bottom. The wide-angle lens, we're a lot physically closer to our subject, and this is going to enlarge elements of a person's face. So things that are closer to the lens, which is the nose, the chin, the cheeks, those are going to be enlarged, and things that are further away, the eyes, are going to end up receding into space a little bit more dramatically. We can also see that we do have a lot more information and detail in the background. So it's not that one is better than the other, it's that one is going to give you a different visual effect than the other. A telephoto lens is much more attractive for this. It's going to lessen the distortion on a person's face
and make the image a little bit more attractive. Now I want to show you a quick video that talks about how Instagram has really affected the way that we interact every day with photography.
In case you're a time traveler from 2009, Instagram is a photo sharing app for mobile phones that lets you take a picture and then apply a filter to it, which makes it look like it was taken by an old, broken Soviet toy camera. But it has a certain, as the French might say, I don't know what. Surely whatever that I don't know what is can't compete with DSLRs, big CCDs, ISOs, and all the other professional photography acronyms. And it can't. A fancy DSLR with a big lens will always take a sharper photo than your iPhone. But the art of photography is about so much more than just accurately capturing the stuff in front of you. An Annie Leibovitz portrait expresses a lot more than just look at this famous person, and an Ansel Adams photo is about a lot more than mountains and trees. Okay, it's kind of about mountains and trees, but there's a lot of other stuff in there too. Photography is about creating an emotional response and delivering a message through color, composition, and shape. These are ideas which are not reinforced by your typical camera phone. Camera phones are for the guy who wants to take a picture of a funny sign, a drain pipe, a really weird-looking bathroom, your feet, a dead bird. That last one, that's a little weird. Not until Instagram, Hipstamatic, PixPlease, and others were people really thinking about the artfulness, the emotions, the messages that they wanted to convey with their mobile phone photos. And without these things, you're taking a snapshot, which is very different from composing a photograph. And with Instagram's instant feedback, you quickly learn which photos create a response. Is your photo boring? Put a filter on it. Still boring? You probably took a boring photo. There's no film. Try again. A lot of people will call these instant nostalgia options lazy, but they've given a million would-be photographers an opportunity to think about mood and visual style. Yes, some of the moods it's especially good at are, I might be colorblind, I just woke up, and why is there Vaseline all over my eyeballs? But, camera phone or not, some of these photos are legitimately amazing. Just because it's a camera that fits in your pocket doesn't mean it can't make a great photo. There are over 40 million Instagram users worldwide who have uploaded over 400 million photos. Instagram is enabling an army of cell phone users to creatively capture the world and events around them. If Twitter has turned everyone into a potential journalist, maybe Instagram has turned everyone into a potential photojournalist. And maybe that is worth $1 billion. What do you guys think?
All right, well, I guess that's how we'll start this week. Look over the syllabus, kind of run through. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know, and I'll be happy to, answer as best I can and as quickly as I can. Also, do an equipment check. Look at the different devices that you have access to. Make sure that you have all the cords and cables to it. Practice taking maybe a few pictures, downloading it just so that you know how to get the images off it. If you have a smart device and you can kind of download a few different apps that have different effects or that allow you to edit your photos, that would be a really good thing to start to do a little bit of research for. There's plenty of them, even free ones, that you can download that at least will let you crop the image, maybe color correct a little bit, and oftentimes will have free effects that it will come with as well. So I would start to investigate that. And other than that, I would go through, fill out the student introduction form, and this will give me a better sense of who you are individually, what your real skill level is, and that way when we're moving forward, I will more appropriately be be able to assist and help you. I would also look and try to see if you can take an image that represents who you are. Now, I put that it's your profile picture. It doesn't necessarily have to be an image of you. I think when we utilize social media, we're allowed to represent ourselves visually in many different ways. And that's kind of part of this class too. So I really want you to take the opportunity to photograph something in some way that represents who you are. You know, if you want to take a traditional portrait, that's fine. We love selfies. Or if you want to take a portrait of your dog or cat, or you know, a texture or surface, any way that you feel visually you want to be represented in this class and in this course, that's up to you. Let's see, is there anything else? I don't think there's anything else. So you got to do the equipment check, you got to do student profile, you got to look over the syllabus. We're doing module 1 now, so that's done. Check, check, check. I guess I'll see you next week. Well, thank you for joining the course. I'm really excited to play with all of you, and we'll see you next week with module 2, and we'll give you your first assignment. I'll end this lecture with showing you the work of Stephen Shore. And every week I'll either show you a photographer's work or ask you to do a little research on a particular photographer to help you visually become a little bit more educated and to maybe even give you some ideas for the assignment that's at hand. All right, bye guys. See you next time.
I think a work can hold a lot of different things at once. Explore the medium, explore perception, and explore other psychological levels. In a simple physical way, the camera is recording with extraordinary detail. And that allows me to see things of interest, but not make them the whole point of a picture. For a person to see a scene with as much detail as this camera can record might take several minutes, but you can have the experience of taking it all in a few seconds in the picture. And so like time, there's a sense of time being compressed in it. I've discovered that this camera was the technical means in photography of communicating what the world looks like in a state of heightened awareness. And it's that awareness of really looking at the everyday world with clear and focused attention that I'm interested in. There's a kind of visual thinking that goes on that is without words, and not just words spoken, but not even words in one's head. Most people think thinking has to do with words, that there's this little voice in your head. But there's a visual thinking that doesn't have that. I know I learned a lot watching Warhol work. It was the first time I really got to see, with Warhol, it was the first time I really got to see an artist working, and began to understand that a lot of art is a series of decisions. Simply seeing him do something, discard it, try something else, I saw the decision-making process of an artist in action. And that was, I think, the beginning of my aesthetic awareness and my aesthetic thinking. I spent a lot of time really exploring the structure of a picture and how to organize space in a picture. And then through that process, as I look at the work, I see a kind of growing structural complexity. If you look at photographers who've had long careers, there tend to be two models. One is the photographer who has a powerful overriding directed vision that propels them for decades. Another model is someone who, in a way, kind of reinvents themselves every now and then. And I think by temperament, I just fall into the second category. And so when I see myself repeating myself or following strategies that I don't learn from, I change something basic about what I'm doing. Any change in subject matter or tool simply raises new questions, new problems to solve, and that's interesting.
Quarter 45 pounds?
I spent maybe 10 years on a kind of formal exploration of photography. And what happened is that I don't think about that anymore. I don't forget all that other stuff, but I don't think about it. You walk down the street, and when you were 11 months old, that was figuring out how to walk was the main focus of your attention. And now you walk and you do fine, and you don't have to think about it. Now you can think about where you're going. And I think that's sort of a similar thing. I'm thinking about where I'm going with the picture.